Okay. Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Gopi Chandra Ballabha Girivardhari Gopi Chandra Ballabha Girivardhari Yashoda Nandana Pratajana Ranjana Yashoda Nandana Pratajana Ranjana Yamuna Tira Vanachari Yamuna Tira Vanachari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Gopi Jana Ballabha Girivardhari Yashoda Nandana Pratajana Ranjana Yamuna Tira Vanachari Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare
Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama Hare Hare.
Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama Hare Hare.
Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama Hare Hare.
Srila Prabhupada ki jai. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya.
Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya.
Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya.
Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya.
So today we are reading from the Srimad-bhagavatam, Canto 8, Chapter 3, Text number 4. Hmm?
8, 3, 4. Number 8. Or number 8.
Yasvatmanidam nija maya ya arpitam kvachid vibatam kvachatat tirohitam avidya dviksakshu bhayam tad ikshate sa atma mulo vatu mang parat puraha yasvatmanidam nidamaya yarpitam Kvachid vibatam kvachatat tirohitam avidya drik sakshashu bhayam tad ikshate sa atma mulo patumang parat paraha yasvatmanidam nijamaya arpitam kvachid vibatam kvachatat tirohitam avidya dviksakshu bhayam tad ikshate sa atma mulo patumang parat paraha yasvatmanidam nijamaya arpitam kvachid vibatam kvachatat tirohitam avidya dviksakshu bhayam tad ikshate sa atma mulo vatumang parat paraha
Yasvatmanidam nijamaya vitam
yasvatmanidam nijamaya arpitam
Vachidvivatam vachatat tirohitam
kvachid vibatam kvachatat tirohitam
Avidha driksaksiyu vayam tadikshate
avidya dviksakshu bhayam tad ikshate
Sa atma mulo vatumam parataraha
sa atma mulo vatumang parat paraha
Yasvatmanidam nijamaya arpitam
yasvatmanidam nijamaya arpitam
Vachidvivatam vachatam tirohitam
kvachid vibatam kvachatat tirohitam
Avidya driksaksiyu bhaktitam tadikshate
avidya dviksakshu bhayam tad ikshate
Sa atmanulo vatumam parataraha
Sa Atma Mulo Vatimang Parat Paraha. Yaswamanidang Nitamaya Arpitam. Vachid Vibhaktang Pachatad Tirohitam. Avijad Viksak Yuvayanta Ikshate. Sa Atma Mulo Vasiman Parat Paraha. Yaswamanidang Nidamaya Arpitam. Vachid Vibhaktang Pachatad Tirohitam. Avijad Viksak Yuvayanta Ikshate. Sa Atma Mulo Vatimang Parat Paraha. Yaha, the Supreme Personality of Godhead, who Swa-Atmani, in him, Idam, this cosmic manifestation, Nijamaya, by his own potency, Arpitam, invested, Kvachit, sometimes at the beginning of a kalpa. Vibhatam, it is manifested, Kvacha, sometimes during dissolution. Tat, that manifestation. Tirohitam, not visible. Avidyadrik, he sees everything in all circumstances. Sakshi, the witness. Ubayam, both. Manifestation and annihilation. Tat, actually it says Tat Ikshate, sees everything without loss of sight. Saha, that Supreme Personality of Godhead. Atma Mulaha, self-sufficient, having no other cause. Avatu, please give protection. Unto me. Harat Paraha, he is transcendental. Oh, he is transcendental to transcendental. Or above all transcendence. Translation. The Supreme Personality of Godhead, by expanding his own energy, keeps this cosmic manifestation visible and again sometimes renders it invisible. He is both the supreme cause and the supreme result, the observer and the witness in all circumstances. Thus he is transcendental to everything. May that Supreme Personality of Godhead give me protection. Repeat after me. The Supreme Personality of Godhead, by expanding his own energy, keeps this cosmic manifestation visible, and again sometimes renders it invisible. He is both the supreme cause and the supreme result, the observer and the witness in all circumstances. Thus he is transcendental to everything. May that supreme personality of Godhead give me protection. So, of course, this is continuing the prayer by Gajendra's prayers to the Lord. Purport. The Supreme Personality of Godhead has multi-potencies. Parasya Shaktir Vividaiva Shruyate. Therefore, as soon as he likes, he uses one of his potencies, and by that expansion he creates this cosmic manifestation. Again, when the cosmic manifestation is annihilated, it rests in him. Nonetheless, he is infallibly the supreme observer. Under any circumstances, Supreme Lord is changeless. He is simply a witness and is aloof from all creation and annihilation. Om Ajnana Timiranda Shakina Jana Shalakaya Chakshurun Viditam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha. So, Parasya Shaktir Vividaiva Shruyate. So the Lord is one, but he has many potencies. Parasya Shaktir Vividaiva Shruyate. There's many energies and potencies that are under his control. And whenever he's ready to do anything, by his desire, he uses these potencies to accomplish what he wants to accomplish. Otherwise, he is simply Krishna in his original form is always there in Goloka Vrindavan, just enjoying. It's like Krishna is there at home enjoying, and he sends Vishnu, which is also his expansion, to do the work in the material world. So, so the Lord is very great like that. So we learned from the Srimad-bhagavatam how the creation is actually created. Even actually, when Srila Prabhupada visited Gainesville Temple back then, 1971, and he was speaking, he gave a lecture outside behind the library there, if you're familiar with the campus there, out the Plaza of the Americas. It was called then, I guess still now. It was there, right? And he gave a lecture to the students. And in the lecture, Srila Prabhupada actually spoke about this point. How the Supreme Lord, he expands himself. He expands himself when he wants to create the material universe, when that time comes. And he expands himself. He expands himself as Mahavishnu, and Mahavishnu is very. We say the Supreme Lord is, for him to be complete, he has to be the biggest, and he has to be the smallest. He has to have all qualities. So Mahavishnu is certainly the biggest manifestation of the Lord. He's so big that entire universes are coming from his breathing and from the pores in his skin. So you can imagine how big he is. And so he's so big. And then from Mahavishnu, who's lying up there in the causal ocean, just enjoying, sleeping. Actually, he's resting. Uh, it's called yoga nidra, mystic sleep, mystic slumber. So he's there, lying there, and while he's resting, then without any endeavor, he's creating thousands, millions, billions of universes. And of course, the we usually people today, scientists and like that, they talk in terms of, this is the universe. The universe is everything, and the universe has there's no limit to it. Uh, but actually, the reality is that when the Lord's creation, He has created the many, many, many universes at one time. And in each of these universes, then He expands Himself again as Garbhodakshai Vishnu. He's lying there on his snake bed, Anantashesha, which is very comfortable. We don't have the experience of lying down on a snake, but the body is actually soft. So his snake bed, Anantashesha, is very comfortable couch to sleep on. And then he's just lying there and enjoying. Lakshmi Devi is also there and is serving him and massaging his feet and so on. And from him, from a lotus flower that comes from the navel, or the first created being, Lord Brahma, is created. So Lord Brahma is the only one in the whole universe, only living entity in the whole universe that doesn't have a mother. I mean, it's in the normal birth system. So he's born like that, on top of this very big lotus flower, and then of course he's in darkness. The whole universe. There's nothing in the universe at that point. There's no sun. There's no moon. Nothing is manifest. It's just dark, completely dark, and he is there trying to get an idea what's going on, and then he hears the words, which comes from the Lord, tapa. Tapa means austerity. Austerity. Perform. You have to do something. Austerity to please the Lord, to get the and in his case to get the blessings of the Lord, so he could do what his service is, which is to create the universe. So and actually all the planets actually exist already, because they're all, it's described that they're all inside the stem of this lotus flower that he's sitting on. But so and he doesn't even quite understand how he's doing what he's doing, but he's empowered somehow to do this, and these universes, all these planets go where they're supposed to go within the universe, and then Lord Brahma, his service is to create the bodies of the living entities, the souls. He doesn't create the soul. The souls have all been, from the previous creation, they've all been drawn within the body of Mahavishnu. The ones that, at least all the ones that remain in the material world who haven't gotten liberation yet. They're kept within the body of Mahavishnu, and then when it's times for the creation, then they are again their new bodies are given to them, and they enter those bodies and within those bodies, within the heart of every living entity's body, whether it's a human being, an animal, or a plant, the Lord is there. The super soul is there, and that super soul is in the form is another incarnation, as that's Kshirodaksha Vishnu. So that's the Paramatma. It's called Kshirodaksha Vishnu. And he also resides on a planet called Swetadweep. It's with an ocean of milk, and he's residing there. So the Lord has a very elaborate way of creation. There's a very simplified version of that given in other scriptures. Very little information, but the Lord is actually manifesting in these ways. So, and at the same time, Krishna, in his original form, from whom all these Vishnu forms have come from, he's just in Goloka Vrindavan, enjoying with his devotees, creating many different kind of rasas or relationships with them. And in the spiritual world, Krishna he's always thinking how to create nice situations for his devotees there. And of course, they're always thinking about how to do what they can do to make Krishna happy. And Krishna is, and that's why everything in the spiritual world is very pleasing, because everyone's always thinking about how to do something good for the others. Everyone wants to please Krishna, and Krishna actually wants to please everyone. So it's a very compatible situation. And so there's no actual envy. There may be an appearance like envy. It enhances somehow the devotional service of the devotees there. But there's no actual envy. Everyone ultimately is thinking, how can I please Krishna? So even Radharani, who is the best of the gopis, and everyone knows that she's most pleasing to Krishna, but she is thinking that all I want is that Krishna is happy. So she says herself, if there's some other gopi here who can please Krishna more, who Krishna is more pleased with, then I will become her maidservant and assist her in her service to Krishna. She's thinking like that. They're not thinking, how can I, put this person down? How can I criticize them? How can I prevent them from doing service? How can I make them look bad in front of Krishna? It's not like that. She's thinking, how can I assist them? And of course, there's no one who is actually more pleasing to Krishna. But she's always thinking of how to engage her friends, the gopis, in Krishna's service. And they're always thinking, they're all together thinking how they could make nice arrangements for meetings of Radha and Krishna, like that, enjoying. And then, of course, the same thing that's just the gopis, but there's the others, and there's the cowherd boys, and there's others who have different relationships with the Lord. But they're all thinking how to please Krishna, and Krishna is always thinking how to make them happy and pleased. And of course, the spiritual world is a very wonderful place because, first of all, there's no birth, there's no death, there's no disease, there's no old age. So these are the real problems of this world, the material world, material universe. This is the big problem. But there's no such things there. Because there's no mode. We have in the material world the modes of material nature, which control things in the material world. But in the spiritual world, there are no three modes of material nature. There's no ignorance. So ignorance means like destruction. And Jai Shri Gaura-Nitai, Shri Radha Braja Vihari, Jagannath, Balaram, Lady Subhadra, and Shri Ganesh Prahlad Maharaj Ki. Ignorance means like destruction, and passion means creation, or is representative of creation. So that means in the spiritual world, there's no passion and there's no ignorance. So there's no creation, there's no destruction. Everything is eternally manifest. Uh, and therefore there's no birth. Birth means the soul has entered the body and go through the processes and changes in our lives from babyhood to boyhood to old age, like that. And then when the body wears out in the end, then that soul goes somewhere else, either to another body, or if we become fully Krishna conscious, back to Godhead. But in the spiritual world, there is no birth, and on all the miseries that come with it. There is no death, and the miseries that come with that. And the only thing that's there is goodness, but it's pure goodness. In the material world, goodness means it's mixed. All the modes are mixed. So and Srila Prabhupada describes there's so many combinations of these three modes of nature. So he said, he gave the example, you multiply 3 times 3 times 3. Anyways, I don't remember exactly how he explained it exactly, but it shows how there are many combinations of the modes of material nature, and they're represented by the different species of life. So there's at least that many combinations of the modes of material nature. But that's the material world. So here we're reading, and Gajendra is pointing out, or is praying to the Lord like that the Lord is he's through his potencies he's done so many wonderful things in this material world, so many wonderful things, but that he is transcendental to it. So therefore he is in the spiritual world enjoying, and even the Vishnu forms that are performing these activities, they're also transcendental. In other words, if we do so many material things, I mean actual material things, not in devotional service, then we get entangled. Outside of devotional service, you can't do anything in the material with the material energy without becoming completely entangled. Even you say pious activities or impious activities. You say, well, pious activities are better, but material pious activities and material impious activities, they both have the same problem. If you have to come back to suffer your results of your impious activities, or you have to you're forced to come back to get the results of your pious activities, material pious activities. So if you've done so much charity and so many people and many things that would give you an opportunity to go to the maybe to the heavenly planets, or maybe to become very wealthy in your next lifetime. There's different kinds of results for different activities. So you may do that, but the downside of it is you got to come back to the material world to get the results. You have to come back. So if you come back if you have to come back to the material world, that means birth, old age, disease, and death. You can't get away with it. For one who is born, death is certain, Bhagavad Gita says. And for one who has died, birth is certain. And of course, if there's birth and there's death, then there's the rest of the life is filled up with disease and old age. And as Kali Yuga goes on, the disease becomes worse, the old age becomes sooner, the lifespan is actually decreasing in time, and so on. We talk about, I mean, you hear about, scientists would talk about, oh yeah, we're living so much longer than we did before. and people in general are living so much longer than they used to live, and we're going to sooner or later we're going to conquer disease and we'll conquer death, and these ideas are out there, but the reality is that the lifespan is decreasing, which maybe we can't see so much right now. I mean, I had my she'll probably was explaining how we may have seen that our relatives, our grandparents maybe were lived longer time. We may live a lesser time. Gradually, lifespan goes down. I had my grandmother on my one side lived to be, she was 96. One of my aunts, she lived to be 100 years old, 100 years, and died a couple of weeks after that, but she lived to be 100. My mother, who passed away not last year, she was 95, 96 years old, and until a couple of years before that, she was even living by herself, taking care of herself, like that. So I don't expect to make it that far. So the lifespan is gradually decreasing in the material in this world. Srimad-bhagavatam says actually that at the end of Kali Yuga, if someone lives to be 25 years old, he or she will be considered to be a very old person, 25 years old. And even then they may be thinking that, oh, lifespan is increasing more and more. But the reality is, in previous ages, lifespan was much more. In Satya Yuga, the beginning of it, lifespan was 100,000 years. We can hardly imagine living 100,000 years in the material even on this planet, but that's what it was, and it gradually reduced over the course of the Satya Yuga, and so beginning of Treta Yuga, normal lifespan was about 10,000 years, which gradually reduced through the Treta Yuga. Beginning of Dwapara Yuga, it was 1,000 years, which gradually reduced, and by the beginning of Kali Yuga, it was more like 100 years. And then by the end of Kali Yuga, it'll be much less. So anyway, that's the material situation, and all these things are controlled by the Supreme Lord. And there's reason. You say, well, why didn't Krishna can do anything? Why is he making we have to go through this, and why do we have to suffer more and more? And time goes on. Why not just keep it like Satya Yuga? He could do that, but you have to ask Krishna why he wants to make it more suffering now, but the suffering is because of the sinful activities. Because of each age, it's not just that each age that comes along and everything is the same. Each age there's more sinful activities. Because of the sinful activities, then the lifespan is reduced. But under any circumstances, the Supreme Lord is changeless. So the Lord, He is doing all these things through His very variegated potencies, managing the whole material cosmic manifestation, but He Himself does not change. He never gets old. In the spiritual world, in the material world, when He manifests, he shows Himself as a little baby, and He grows up, and when He gets around 16 years old or 20 years old, He doesn't change anymore. So it's like the ideal time of life. When we become 16, 18 years old, we're in a best position for enjoying. You can experience some loving type of relationships with others, and and at the same time, you're you're young enough to enjoy. You have the desire, and you're young enough to actually enjoy to some degree in that way. So Krishna, he manifests himself like that. He grows and gets older, manifests his age is older up to a certain point, the perfect age for his eternal loving relationships, but he's God, so he says, I'm not going to manifest anymore. Any older, that's what he does. He simply remains at that age. So even on the battlefield of Kurukshetra, and he's out there and he's driving Arjuna's chariot, but he was only about, he appeared to be, he was actually 125 years old at that point, as far as his manifested time on this planet, but he appeared to be maybe 18 or 20 years old in that time. He appeared that way. So the Lord actually does not change. And in the spiritual world, he actually is always that age. He doesn't go through the changes of babyhood or boyhood like that in Goloka Vrindavan. He's always of that perfect age, like that. He only manifests his baby pastimes when he comes to the material world, which he does constantly, because he has his traveling roadshow. Traveling roadshow. There used to be a group of devotees called themselves the Traveling Roadshow, and the what was behind that name was doing, well, not exactly what Krishna does, but what Krishna does, he's constantly performing his pastimes in the material world somewhere. So when he finishes performing, he's killing Putana witch in this universe, but as soon as he does that, in another universe, he's actually doing the same pastime again. And as soon as he does that, he's manifesting and doing it again somewhere else. And each and every one of his pastimes, he's doing that, and from one universe to the other. So we say that his pastimes are, it's called Nitya Leela. Nitya Leela, eternal pastimes, because he's constantly engaged in those pastimes somewhere. Well, of course, always in the spiritual world, but always also in the material world. He's always manifesting his wonderful pastimes, and he has no reason to come to the material world except to help us. We're here. We're in prison right now. This is a very, a very big prison without bars, for the most part. But actually, there are so many bars because we can't get out. We want to get out of here. We want to get out of birth, death, disease, and old age. We can't do it on our own. We have to become good citizens of the spiritual world. We have to change our, give up our bad habits and our bad mentality. But both things. You have to act properly, and our mentality has to change. So that's why that's why we can chant Hare Krishna. We meet, we come in contact with devotees. We can start chanting Hare Krishna. We can follow the Four Regular Principles. We can engage in our different devotional activities. And so our activities, if we're strictly doing that, are perfect. But our mentality may still be off from where it should be. So we, through this process, of course, our mentality will change, and that change in mentality is what's necessary to go back to the spiritual world. If that's the change in mentality is what has to be, we have to change, and it will change by engaging in devotional service. And if we simply by engaging in devotional service, and tolerating the difficulties that we go through. Sometimes we think the association of devotees is intolerable. Sometimes we could think like that, depending on circumstances. Um, the association of devotees is intolerable. I gotta just get out of this place. The people outside, the materialistic people, they were so much nicer to me. I mean, sometimes we may think like that. Um, and then someone gives up their their life as a devotee and tries to associate and enjoy outside. But ultimately, people outside, it's very superficial. It's very superficial. There's a lot of etiquette and things like that, but the things are basically superficial because the material mentality is still everything, everything for me. And dog eat dog, they say, they use that term. It's a difficult time. So it's not really nicer. It just appears, it may appear that way because it's superficial. Um, superficial relationships. But so these staying in the association of devotees is very important. Even if we work outside, uh, we have a devotee family, or we have devotee friends, or we have devotee contacts through, we have the internet and everything now. There's so much opportunity to associate with others in Krishna consciousness. So we have to somehow or other keep in the association of devotees. And Srila Prabhupada has emphasized that again and again. He created ISKCON so that we could come together. We have a place, or many places, many temples all over the world to come together and associate, engaging together in Krishna service. This is also part of the Krishna's potencies that we're talking about, that are manifested like this. Krishna's potency is that he manifests as the deity. Our temples would be kind of a lot different if they didn't have deities in them. Right? Krishna's here. Seeing the deities every day, twice a day, or many times a day, but dressed differently each time a day, and that happening every day. It's very important. And the festivals we put on, for the deities, we come and enjoy. We're chanting together, hero class, prasadam feast, things like that. We're doing that, but it's all actually done for the pleasure of the deities. And that the deity is Krishna's, is a manifestation of his potency, that he's appearing like that. The holy names, we like chanting Hare Krishna, so the holy names themselves are a manifestation of Krishna's potency, and the holy names are not different from Krishna. They're not different. So by chanting Hare Krishna, then we become purified, because Krishna is pure. We become purified by that chanting, and then we can become fully Krishna conscious just by chanting, if we can actually just chant all the time and follow the regular principles. But in reality, we really have to. I was mentioning yesterday, I think we have to study the philosophy. Unless we're really, really advanced, then we can just chant Hare Krishna all day, because we're actually realizing Krishna in his name. And Lord Chaitanya, when he was present, the people in general, he convinced them to just chant. People in general are not scholars. People in general are not philosophers. They're not. People in general are not really interested in hearing and studying a lot of deep philosophy, but they like chanting, or they can develop a taste for chanting. Even Srila Prabhupada, sometimes Srila Prabhupada would have meetings with, the mayor of a city, or a police chief, or someone in some position in a city. He's meeting with them, and of course they ask, well, what can your Krishna consciousness, what can you do to help solve the problems, problems of crime and so many things go on in the material society. And Srila Prabhupada said, how can Krishna consciousness help that? And he said, if the city officials would organize or would facilitate the mass chanting of the holy names, then everything would change. Of course, they don't do that. We're lucky if we can go out and chant in the street without getting in trouble with the city. But what Srila Prabhupada said is true, because if imagine if rather than going to rather than 30,000, 40,000 people coming together and watching a football game or a soccer game or a baseball game or one of those kind of things, rather than coming together for that, they all came together, go to the same stadium, and then have big kirtan with 30,000 people jumping up and down and dancing and chanting Hare Krishna. How much of the effect that would have on them and on the society, say, and by doing that, people will get purified, and by becoming purified, then the problems of crime would be minimized. Maybe it wouldn't stop because we're still in the material world, and not everyone's going to chant nicely. But Srila Prabhupada pointed that out. If you encourage that, Srila Prabhupada also pointed out. It was a recommendation, which I don't see happening anytime soon in the material world, but it was a recommendation that the people, the society in general, there were 2 mandatory days that at least people didn't eat grains, Ekadasi, then it had different effects. One would be the actual spiritual effect of observing Ekadasi. Another would be the grains that would have been eaten on that day can be stored for, so maybe later on that they'd be needed, kept in a cool, dry place. And then he also, one of his other recommendations was that every since it's a tendency between young men and young women, old men and old women, it's just come together and illicit sex and like that. So marriage would be mandatory, for those who are. You get a certain age, you get married, because otherwise your tendency will be, material tendency will be to associate and sex life and everything. And if it's illicit, then there's going to be so much problem. Illicit sex means that it's sex, and then there's many times there's abortions. There are, I don't know what the number is, but there have been like millions and millions of abortions in the country at one time, in this country at one time, in one year. And so we were talking about the lifespan a little bit earlier, reducing that lifespan, reducing. If someone may say, well, it seems like we're getting older, but you also have to average in those who are born, or not born, but who are conceived there in the womb, and their life is cut short. And those who are through abortions. So when that happens, so here's somebody who that counts as a negative year, or a negative 6 months. So you have 6 months, 8 months, or however many years, how much time they were not allowed to develop before they came out, and that was that's a negative number. So you have how long people are living, and minus how long the babies in the womb their lives are being cut short. So that overall in human society, also is reducing the lifespan, the overall count of how long people live. Anyway, I think I better stop here. Are there, because of time, are there any questions, comments?
I always wondered, like, when they go back to that, I think it's like manifest there, there's like a, in the spiritual world, they manifest, and the souls are there, and the souls manifest.
We will, when we, if at the end of this lifetime, we are to go back to the spiritual world, then yes, this is described in the Srimad-bhagavatam. It's the first canto, because Narada Muni is describing his time, that just at the moment of giving up this body, then just like lightning, or just like lightning, which is like just a flash, that quickly we're giving up the body here, and we're already manifest in our eternal rasa relationship there. It happens immediately. It happens there, that quickly.
Sometimes we say like Krishna's in the heart, but as you mentioned, Krishna that the Loka is always in Vrindavan, Vrindavan.
Yes.
So is it right to think Vishnu's in the heart?
The description of the super soul is actually Vishnu. But when we say Krishna, Vishnu, Srila pretty much says it's the same thing. It's the same. So he doesn't really make that distinction. But the form is Vishnu, form. You can read about the actual description of the super soul. It's in the second canto, third chapter. The chapter is called "The Lord in the Heart." So there's a very detailed description of what the super soul in the heart looks like that. So, did I answer the question?
Yeah, because some people, it seems like sometimes devotees are, not really confused, but they get angry. Krishna, why is it? But Krishna is always in Vrindavan, but Vishnu is manifesting in the heart and in the universe as avatars and so forth.
And he can also manifest, if we become fully Krishna conscious, he can also manifest in his original form in the heart, because that's how we have that attraction to him in that form at that point. So he can manifest like that in our heart also. And of course, he's not in our heart when he's manifesting. It's not like he's there and there's blood and everything everywhere. He's there, but he's not touched by anything. He's pure and uncontaminated. He's pure and he cannot be contaminated by anything. So it's like that. Nandaloka, any question? Comment? Nothing today. No? Okay. So do you have any questions, Jivan? Sounds like a no to me. Okay, so we'll end here. Tomorrow we will go on with text 5. So, Srila Prabhupada ki jai, Srimad-bhagavatam ki jai.